Guys, congratulations on Ralph Breaks the Internet. I absolutely
okay?
adored
Yeah, sorry.
I absolutely adored the first film, and I loved seeing you guys reunite for this one, the friendship in this. Oh, it's so heartwarming. But what I love about this film as well is that it talks really about social media and the internet and kind of where we are, today. It's very contemporary that way. I know that, John, you're not really on social media as much, and Sarah, you're very active on like Instagram and Twitter and stuff. But how do each of you feel kind of about today's social media-driven world?
I think there's good and bad about it. It's reflected in the movie so well. It's like these kind of endless possibilities and yet constant bombardment. It can build you up, it can break you down, and eventually you must, in order to survive, realize that you cannot pin your worth on others. It has to come from inside. So as negative as it can be, hopefully it will get us back to a place where we're looking a little more inward for how we feel about ourselves and others.
I saw a statistic that said, due to the internet and social media, that loneliness and alienation are on the rise, like a steep rise.
Okay.
But there are 3 different categories of people that they measured. People that use social media and lessen their actual in-world contacts with people have a sharp spike in loneliness and alienation. People who don't use social media at all have no change in their loneliness or their alienation. People who use social media extensively but use it to make contact with people, to go out and make plans and do things, also no change. So the problem comes when you use social media only as your social interaction. Then, ironically, even though we feel more connected by that stuff, it actually makes us feel lonely and more alienated. So you have to use it as a tool to get out and actually make contact with people. That would be my advice.
For sure. Because Sarah, I've seen you use social media in a really, positive, inspiring way. I remember, I think it was last December, there was a man on Twitter who kind of called you something really horrible, but instead of kind of fighting back, which would be kind of your go-to reaction, you looked on his profile, you saw he was suffering, he had slipped discs, among other issues. How can we kind of, follow your example, and how can we use social media in this like more positive way?
Well, I'm not always my best self, but I do remember that, and I looked at his feed, and he suffered from, bad back pain, chronic back pain, and and I just decided to go a different way with it. I mean, usually I would ignore it or not see it at all, but I happened to see it, and I said, well, it looks like, boy, you're suffering, and I know what you mean about back pain. I have it too. And he just immediately opened up like a flower, and we stayed in touch for a very long time, although I haven't been in contact with him lately, and I'm worried about him actually. But anyway, that aside.
Now people are going to be mean to you, Sarah, in order to get you to contact them.
Well, that will probably prove unfruitful in general. But people go towards love, and the rage and anger that's, at people, this person didn't know me at all. I mean, if I took that personally, it would be, it wouldn't be, correct, because it has nothing to do with me. But people are really suffering. I know in America, the angst and a lot of PTSD going around, and for a lot of various reasons, and a lot of rage, and people have not been taught the tools to deal with it, and it has to go somewhere. Like there's a Jesus quote that's like, if you don't deal with your shit will deal with you, but there's like doth in it. It's not a direct.
That's how Jesus put it.
If you do not put forth what is within you will destroy you. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
But it really is true. So people are bottled up, and that those feelings come out in some way, right? We're familiar with this in our lives. An unexamined life can do a lot of damage to yourself and others. And as soon as you go towards somebody with love, they can really, their porcupine needles go down and they open up like a flower, and you have to be tender with it, you know. But I like that. I like connecting with people, and I like being changed by people. And you know, I do a show where I talk about people who have been changed. And they always say, you know, there was just somebody who saw something in them beyond what they saw in themselves. You know, I talked to a we should talk about Ralph Breaks the Internet. Sorry, very few minutes.
Brilliant. So one of my last questions for you guys was, as with Wreck-It Ralph, for Ralph Breaks the Internet, very, very emotional, hard-hitting ending. I mean, this is about two characters from a game, and yet they're so relatable on a number of levels. Like, how did each of you guys feel reading the endings for both those scripts, the first film and then this one? What kind of emotions were going through?
Well, you know, you say it's hard hitting at the end, but in fact, I think it's just intensely emotional, and that's a good thing, you know.
Happy emotional.
Yeah, I think that's one of the really mature, kind of cool things that the movie says. You know, Ralph and Penelope have some growing pains in their friendship, and like you mentioned, by the end of the film, they need to transform their relationship and themselves and look at life in a different way. And everything's not perfect at the end, but it's going to be okay. And I think that's a really good lesson for kids right now. Like, as you go through the difficulties in your life, you know, it's going to be hard, and there's going to be growing pains, and it's not going to be comfortable, and you're going to have to challenge yourself and grow, but it's going to be okay. You are going to be okay, as long as you know, keep believing yourself and keep having faith in your friends, and everything's going to be fine, everybody, right?